At Colombo, the chief seaport of Ceylon, we are immediately interested by the extremes in vehicular traffic. Here in the main street we see automobiles, motorcycles, rickshaws, bicycles, and ox carts, all hobnobbing with each other in perfect order. Even the kitchen stove is moved about on wheels. Here we are introduced to the water sprinkling system of Ceylon. This picturesque primitiveness is also observed in boat traffic, where the Colombo ferry lazily plies its trade. While waiting for the ferry, some of the passengers take advantage of the municipal cigar lighter. Not far from here, we come upon a most primitive scene, a group of natives separating chaff from rice. Incidentally, rice is one of the chief products of Ceylon. Primitive methods of labor are revealed in many ways throughout this tropical island. Here we observe men and women working side by side in the construction of their roads. The tropical scenery so characteristic of Ceylon is beautifully illustrated in this typical setting.
The sun over a tropical sea to the island of Ceylon. We arrive in the harbor of Colombo, capital and chief seaport of Great Britain's crown colony, Ceylon, where at the crossroads of two hemispheres, the east meets the west, and trade is carried on in the traditional manner of Old England. Colombo's chief landmark is a lighthouse on Main Street, which throws its nocturnal beams over the city to ships at sea, and bears the unique distinction of having a lighthouse keeper who walks to and from his lighthouse, ducking and dodging bicycles, rickshaws, automobiles, carts, and pedestrians. And while he is on duty, the whirl of traffic continues just beneath his tower. The island of Ceylon is only a few miles off the coast of southern India, and at one time it may have been part of the mainland, thus accounting for the prevalence of East Indian types. The men are inclined to be feminine in manner as well as dress, most of them wearing their hair as long as the women. They prefer to do their own sewing and mending, and not a few of them cook the family meals. Generally speaking, the women of Ceylon, from childhood to old age, have a much easier time than most native women in the Eastern Hemisphere. Buddhism is the pervading religion of Ceylon, and picturesque Buddhist temples are very much in evidence all over the island. Buddhist priests in their colorful robes lend interesting atmosphere to the temples. They receive no definite income for their services, but they have the prerogative of knocking on the door of any Buddhist house for food and drink and an occasional piece of cloth to supplant a worn-out robe. Generally speaking, the Buddhist priests are wholesome and good-natured men, serving what appears to be a constructive cause with an admirable degree of simplicity and unselfishness. Perhaps the most famous Buddhist temple in Ceylon is the so-called Temple of the Tooth at Kandy. According to tradition, one of the great Buddhist teeth is preserved within this temple, and it is exhibited once a year with an elaborate ceremony that is attended by Buddhists from all parts of Ceylon. Among the animals of Ceylon, the water buffalo is perhaps the most indispensable. And he is the inseparable companion of the Singalese farmer, who probably gives more time and attention to his buffalo than he does to his children. The water buffalo's skin is of such fine texture that it is practically devoid of pores. Consequently, during the heat of the day, he must be bathed several times in cool water. Vying with the water buffalo from a point of usefulness is the elephant, who must also be bathed at least twice a day because of his thick skin. It is said that the elephants of Ceylon are such accurate judges of time that every day at precisely the same hour, they will quit work in the fields and go down to the water to drink and bathe. Consequently, the time of day may be determined by the natives through the habits of the elephants. Ceylon's most popular seaside resort is called Mount Lavinia, and it is here that the wealthier residents find relief from the intense heat of Colombo. The picturesque boats of the native fishermen providing no small amount of pleasure to those who are fond of sailing. Amongst the fishermen, we find the feminine types, who are as proud of their raven locks as was the proverbial Samson of biblical fame. But now the time for our departure is drawing near. Off the golden coast of Mount Lavinia, the great orb of day, resplendent in an aura of tropical colors, is descending into a tropical sea, forming a glorious setting in which to conclude our glimpses of Java and Ceylon.